Today we will study about the chemistry in everyday life. In this chapter, we will study about drugs, the classification of drug target interaction, enzymes as a drug target, receptors as a drug target, and types of the drugs or chemicals that are used in foodstuffs and cleansing agents. Now, what are drugs? Drugs are the chemical substances of natural or synthetic origin which are used for curing the disease and reducing suffering from the pain are called the drugs or medicine. A drug is a chemical substance which cures the disease but is habit forming, cause addiction and has serious side effects. A medicine is a chemical substance which cures the disease, is safe to use, has negligible toxicity and does not cause any addiction. The classification of the drugs. The classification of the drugs can be classified in a number of the ways. Number one, first on the basis of pharmacological effect. It is useful for the doctors as it provides a whole range of the drug available in the market for the treatment of particular kind of the problem. For example, analgesic have pain-killing effects. Second, the classification on the basis of the drug action. It is based on the action of the drug on the particular biochemical process. All antihistamine inhibits the action of the compounds. Third, the classification on the basis of the chemical structure. The drugs classified in the way share the common structural feature and often have the similar pharmacological activity. Example, sulfonamide have the common structural features. Fourth, on the basis of molecular target. Drug usually interact with biomolecules such as lipid, protein. These are called target molecule or drug target. Drugs possessing some common structural features may have the same mechanism of the action on the target molecules. Drug target interaction. The macromolecule of biological origin performs the various functions in the body. The protein which perform the role of biological catalyst in the body are called enzymes. Those proteins which are crucial to the communication system in the body are called receptors. Those proteins which carry polar body across the membrane are called the carrier proteins. Enzyme as a drug target. Catalytic action of the enzyme. The first function of the enzyme is to hold the substrate for the chemical reaction. The active site of the enzyme holds the substrate molecule in the suitable position so that it can be attacked by the reagent effectively. The second function of the enzyme is to provide the functional group that will attack the substrate and carry out the chemical reaction. Drug-enzyme interaction. Drug inhibits the attachment of the substrate on the active site of the enzyme in two different ways. Number one, the drug which compete the natural substrate for their attachment in the active site of the enzyme. Such drugs are called competitive inhibitors. While some drugs which do not bind to the active site of the enzyme, these bind to the different site of the enzyme other than the active site, which is called the allosteric site. This binding of the inhibitor at the allosteric site changes the shape of the active site in such a way that the substrate molecule cannot recognize them. Receptors as a drug target. Receptors are the protein which are crucial to the communication system in the body. The majority are embedded in the cell membrane in such a way that their small part possessing the active sites projects out on the surface of the membrane and open in the outside region of the cell membrane. In between, in the body, the masses between the two neurons and that between the neuron to the muscle is communicated through a certain chemicals. These chemicals are known as chemical messenger. The chemical messengers are received at the binding site of the receptor protein. To accommodate a messenger, the shape of the receptor site change. This brings about the transfer of the masses into the cell. Thus, the chemical messenger gives the masses to the cell without entering into the cell. Here we have to see the outer surface of the cell membrane, and the receptor protein is embedded inside it, having a binding site. The chemical messenger attaches itself to the binding site of the enzyme and give its masses to the receptor protein. This masses will enter inside the body without the entering of the chemical messenger. The types of the drugs. Now here we have to study about the different types of the drugs. The first is antacids. Now what are antacids? Those substances which neutralize the axis of the acid and raise the pH to an appropriate level in the stomach are called antacids. Mostly commonly used antacids are sodium bicarbonate, magnesium hydroxide. Some important drugs are cimetidine and ranitidine. The drugs used recently are omeprazole and lansoprazole. Antihistamine drugs. These are the hypersensitivity drugs, and the hypersensitivity of the some person to some drugs, dust, pollen grain, cat furs, etc. is called allergy and is due to the release of the substance called histamine in the body. The drug which interfere with the natural action of the histamine by competing with histamine for binding site of the receptor where histamine exert its effect is called antihistamine or antiallergic drugs. Antihistamines are widely used as brompheniramine, which is also a salt of dimetap, dimetane, terfenadine, which is also known as the sildane. Analgesic drugs. Analgesic drugs or neurological active drugs which reduce or abolish the pain without causing impairment of confusedness, mental confusion, incoordination or paralysis, or some other disturbance or disorder of the nervous system are called analgesic drugs. These can be classified into two categories. Number one, non-narcotic. The non-narcotic analgesic are the medicines used to control the pain and inflammation in the body parts. Non-narcotic are used to treat the acute or persistent pain that is mild to moderate. They also may be used in combination with other medications or therapies to treat moderate or to the severe pains. Example, aspirin, Motrin or Avil, Brufen. These are the examples. Neurologically active drugs known as tranquilizers. The drugs which are used